You think I'd come in here without a plan B? No, cheesers! Coward! I gave you everything!
Don't Starve Together is a game with a high variety of characters to pick from, and as equally high variety as its character base, it also has a wide array of ways you can play, whether that be just casually playing, trying to defeat the two in-game bosses, Fuelweaver or Celestial Champion, and even downloading a mod that allows you to drive a car and then running over your subscribers with it. Oh, okay, maybe this isn't okay, yeah, a lot of people have done, and the car just exploded. But what if there was a way to play as a non-player creature and instead try and defeat one of the two in-game bosses as them instead? And what if this creature was among the weakest in the entire game? So today we ask the question, can you beat Don't Starve as a Carrat? So, starting off, how is it even possible for me to play as a Carrat? Well, it's not possible in base game, or at least I don't think so with console commands, so we actually need to install a mod. Playable creatures will give us a similar ability to play as a Carrat. It's not the exact same as a Carrat, but then again, an exact Carrat can't die of hunger, nor can it really do anything other than walk around and burrow. Secondly, what do I mean when I say beat? Don't Starve Together doesn't exactly have a confirmed end of the game screen, so in-game can be a bit subjective. Well, when I say beat Don't Starve Together, I mean by killing either Ancient Fuelweaver or Celestial Champion. With that being said, I chose the new best character in Don't Starve, left the portal, and my adventure began, as the Warrior Rat. Now, in situations like these, it's best to take stock of your good traits, and fortunately the Carrat isn't exactly worthless. First off, the Carrat has a slight speed boost, and it can pick basic materials instantly. I was able to get almost all the grass I would need for the next several days in only a matter of a few minutes. So I did the basics as fast as I could. Get wood, get to a rock biome, and make a science machine and prototype a spear, backpack, and alchemy engine. I also started collecting niter for a plan I had later. Fighting this gobbler, I realized the biggest problem I was going to have was not the 50 health only and the fast draining hunger pool, but the abysmally slow attack animation for the Carrat. This was going to lower my damage output so horrendously to the point to where the average boss fight that someone would be able to beat using an endurance method would take me 3 times the amount of both healing items and armor to do. Moving down the path, I found my first target, the Shadow Pieces set piece, and yep, you guessed it, I'm going after the Ancient Fuelweaver. I also found some pigs, and thought this would be a good opportunity to get some pig skin and test my mettle. Needless to say, I was even more demoralized now than before. A single fight versus more than one pig is now life-threatening. However, I did find the first chest piece down here, and got to work bringing it back to the build. Since 1, it wasn't very far anyways, and 2, I have no idea if this rat can even ride beefalo. Unfortunately, it was still just as slow as carrying it back as a regular character. I found another shadow set piece, and next to it was the Nighthead. I was now 2 pieces into building the shadow pieces. I built myself a football helmet, attempted to get epic merch. Unfortunately, the sheer psionic potential of epic merch is too powerful for a rat of this magnitude, causing him to disappear during the process. I fought a Clockwork Knight, and while fighting him, he kicked my face in.
I've been looking for you.
I built an icebox because for some reason as a rat my food was going bad faster, and it was time for me to go underground. I vented and immediately found a tentapiller. I'm not sure how I plan on getting rid of these as a rat right at the moment, but that's a problem for future me. Present me already has his plate full. I also found some rock lobsters which will let me get rid of Ancient Guardian without any issues. Also, you may have noticed by now that not only do I not have any light sources, but that I have perfect vision in the caves. And that is because the Carrat has night vision. Is this slightly overpowered? Probably. Is this still a question worth answering due to the ridiculous other debuffs this rat has? You tell me. This is like the Subway restaurant. You're watching the video.
My brother in Christ, you made the sandwich.
As I scurried into the ruins, I questioned whether or not this rat would be affected by shadow creatures, as he's clearly not affected by sanity. The numerous duels I had with the shadow creatures confirmed this to be a stupid question. I moved deeper onto the ruins, looking for 3 specific gem types: yellow, orange, and purple. All other gem types are useless currently. Looking back, I could have just refueled 1 yellow gem, but past me really didn't have time for that, as you'll soon see. And then I found the Ancient Labyrinth, and this was actually an invaluable opportunity because this means I may have found a way to get one of the items that I really need to beat the Shadow Pieces. That item is the Lazy Explorer or the Orange Staff. Why this is so important is because, as I stated earlier, every fight that I do with any type of endurance playstyle will require up to 3 times as much armor and healing items, and no single speed boost in Don't Starve is enough to dodge any of the Shadow Pieces on level 3. But it gets worse. The Carrat isn't affected by cobblestones or the road, meaning even if I had the yellow amulet or the magiluminescence, I'm still not fast enough to dodge them. However, the yellow amulet combined with the lazy explorer and the rat's speed means I will be just barely fast enough to defeat the shadow pieces, and this is the only place I can get it before the new moon too, as in order to get the walking cane it has to be winter. I proceeded to loot every chest in the labyrinth, then I looked at the wiki and realized that I was looking at the large ornate chest drops, not the regular ornate chests. Only the large ornate chest drops the orange staff. The good news is I could still obtain the orange staff before the new moon. The bad news is I have to kill the ancient guardian first. I left in the middle of a civil war. Fortunately, as a mouse, I am more than fast enough to be more than a safe distance away from the monkey train. I left Undertale, realized storage would be a reoccurring issue, planted a twiggy tree orchard for future incineration purposes, and went right back underground with plans to kill Ancient Guardian. This seems like a hard task to do, especially given the fact that, once again, I am a rat. However, all we need to do is go get those lobsters from earlier and give them 3 or so rocks to make sure they stay our friends for the fight. I only found 5 lobsters, but 5 is actually more than enough to deal with Guardian. You actually don't even need to wait for them to follow you, as they will teleport to you if you get too far away. So we lead them into the labyrinth and patiently wait for them to snip Ancient Guardian to death. Fortunately, I couldn't have asked for a better drop. The large ornate chest not only had the orange staff, but also a yellow amulet. I still plan on getting another yellow amulet, because I predict the Shadow Pieces fight is going to require my 100% attention, and no time to refuel with nightmare fuel, but it's completely doable now. I returned to the surface once again because my inventory was more full than gems during the first 2 weeks of January, committed a healthy amount of widdle. I then got attacked by not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 4 hounds on the first wave, and was off to collect even more niter. Now, most people who have watched my OP Fuelweaver guide by now probably know what I'm planning, but in case you don't, I intend to blow up Fuelweaver with a stack of gunpowder. This is due to the simple fact that fighting Fuelweaver head-on as a rat will be physically impossible, due to the simple fact that I have a solid 1 to 1.5 second cooldown on every attack. I can't even fathom the amount of resources it would take to kill Fuelweaver in melee combat, and that's not even taking into account that the Fuelweaver both has shields and can regenerate its health. I did consider using a blow dart, but since I'm still faced with a problem of the attack speed slow, and that this fucking silly Carrat can't even catch a boomerang when it throws it at a snowbird, I decided against it. My next step was the bird cage for rotten eggs, and some healing salves with ash so I'm not burdened with spoilage time. Realized I should probably bring the orange staff with me since I literally got it so that it would make me go faster, and I learned that if the stagehand can't find light at night, it sort of just stands still depressed.
We will beat this. Together.
Hey,
See you tomorrow.
you're getting tall. Good night.
The subsystem uses boyfriends to generate cummy-wummies.
I found the swamp next to a shrine of pig guards that I'm sure won't be a problem for me later, and knee-deep into the swamp I found both the reeds I needed and the bishop's head. This means all I needed to do left for the shadow pieces setup was get it back to and the pigs became a problem for me. I could not have possibly predicted that either. Eventually I moved far enough past them and finished the shadow pieces though. I crafted the bird's slavery box, and I was off to collect meat to turn into rotten eggs. One of the easiest ways to get a lot of meat is to get it from spiders, and this is where things as simple as regular traps became very valuable in my rat form, as it was effectively the ability to knock one of the spiders out of the fight instantly. Most of the time I don't bother with a trap, but in cases like these they are practically a requirement. I began scarfing the delicious diarrhea steak down my imprisoned avian's oppressive esophagus, and had a nice supply of eggs that would begin rotting for the criminal amount of gunpowder ordnance I was planning on making. I also incinerated some of my excess grass for the ash in order to make some healing salves that would allow me to make some non-spoiling first aid. I then grabbed my yellow gems for my trip back to Undertale, as I wasn't confident that I would be able to do the Shadow Pieces fight with only a single amulet, as I didn't want to mess with refueling it with nightmare fuel mid-fight. So I went down to the ancient ruins and repaired the science station faster than Crazy Diamond. I accidentally crafted 2 amulets as I was busy worrying about getting mutilated by shadow creatures, laughed as I fled the ruins yet again that the monkeys could now no longer catch me, made my pet bird consume more poop meat for poop eggs. I then realized I had only a day left to prepare for the shadows fight, and in order to get meat to make a hambat, I decided to mug a tall bird. She killed me. So I tried again and succeeded. I also realized this mouse was immune to the snow and wondered if it would also be immune to the rain in the same respect. And then I got ready for the imminent brawl with the shadow pieces. So I prepared some helmets, made my handbat, and I hammered the knight statue for a good fight, and I died almost immediately to the first tier. Now, something important to note here is that even though I have all the gear to dodge the rook for the final phase, getting to that point is a problem in itself. As a rat, I only have 50 health, and even with armor, I have the fucking durability of rice paper, meaning any attack rush that I get hit by the entirety of by the bishop will kill me instantly. Needless to say, I was here for quite a while, dying over and over to the first and second tiers of shadow pieces. To call this process painful was an understatement. Eventually I did get to the point where Rook was level 3, and my amulet combined with the orange staff made me just fast enough to hit him, while still being fast enough to dodge, and I was now officially halfway done with the challenge. Taking the heart of pure darkness into my little rat paws, I decided to use the remainder of my time holding a weapon like a handbat to go and collect more meat to turn into eggs for explosives and healing salves. I also debated whether or not I should spend the remainder of winter either looking for Fuelweaver's cavern or preparing to fight Moose Goose, as current me doesn't have a plan for how I'm actually going to deal with Moose Goose. I decided instead to continue slaying spiders, as I needed meat for eggs and in turn rotten eggs for gunpowder, regardless of which one I did first, and it would also provide me with more healing salves from the spider glands they drop. I also hunted a hunt, got a koalefin, and brutally murdered him. I also came across the deciduous biome and decided to grab the pan flute while I was here. I also found another touchstone and refilled my foreskin supply. Also, if you're in a situation where you really need to heal yourself but only have a bad bat and don't want to risk getting hit in a fight, you can actually just leech life off of Chester, seeing as how he rapidly regenerates damage anyway.
Hey man, I'm gonna eat you.
I didn't stop collecting eggs until I had 3 whole stacks, and then set out to finish the 3 stacks of charcoal and later on niter. However, when I was making more charcoal, I heard Deerclops' signature growl, so I quickly made another handbat, moved away from my base, and I got ready for the worst. However, Deerclops was not nearly as much of a problem as you would think, and what's more accurate is he simply took a long time to kill. Deerclops only has 4,000 health, and Deerclops' main danger is the fact that he has a super powerful insanity aura. I am a rat, and thus have no stake in the matters of sanity, and thus I can take as long as I need to kill Deerclops, which, as you've guessed, with only being able to get 1 attack per run, takes a while. After gathering quite a bit more charcoal, I went back to my bomb chest to see my first set of eggs have spoiled, and thus turned it into my first stack of gunpowder, before moving on to go pick the rock biome clean out of its remaining niter. Also, I don't know if I would actually even need an umbrella, as this rat has also been shown to be immune to both the cold, sanity, and the darkness so far, but I decided it was better to err on the side of caution and make the hat anyway. I also found another koalefin, but decided to keep it alive so I wouldn't need to hunt too far for meat for handbats again, so I corralled it into a corner near my base. I stole some eggs that the Pingles left behind. I had some excess charcoal, so I decided to make some drying racks, seeing as how I wouldn't need to spoil any more eggs after this. Don't ask me why I decided to do this right before spring. I also started making honey foods too, since I had so much left behind from the Deerclops attack. And then spring came, and a moose goose landed right in front of my base, and in that spirit, I instead decided to go underground and find which tentapiller would lead me to Fuelweaver's beefsteak. It also started raining, so for safe measure I put on my umbrella, even though water likely does nothing to me. I had already found several tentapillers, so likely all I had to do was find which one was the right one. And fortunately, I have a plan for doing so.
That's right, we're gonna cheat.
Getting to the closest one, I immediately left the game. Then I rejoined the game and bombed the pillar before jumping in and realizing this was not the right pillar. I then left the game again and reloaded to the time I left before I bombed the pillar, and proceeded to go through checking each pillar I found without actually losing any resources, as I kept exploding back into the past. I did eventually find it, and laughably the one area that's filled to the brim with fucking spiders. Returning to the surface, I found that 3 Meese geese had spawned on top of the previous one, meaning all I had to do now was kill them, because that would definitely be an easy task. Also, I found out that, at least in regards to chopping and mining, the rain has no effect on the Carrat. I ironically spawned a treeguard while testing this, and being the efficient craftsman that I am, I used that treeguard to tag team a moose goose, and being as generous as the moose goose was, it only dropped 3 feathers. A single weatherpain is 10 feathers. At this point, I started collecting meat because I planned to mob one of them with pigmen, but ultimately chose against it because 1, this is spring, so short days, and there probably wouldn't be enough pigmen to push it with me anyways. So my only other option was I had to be a man, and by man I of course mean rat and face the moose goose solo. Technically speaking, as long as the moose goose has moslings, I'll only need to kill one more and then just mop up the babies. That was not the case with this moose goose, as she was a single mom with no kids. Also in the corner, I realized another moose goose killed my pet koalefant that I was planning to kill him on myself. So my next target was the first moose goose I saw right next to my base. Then I realized something, and I had a deliciously stupid idea. The bee queen was right next to it, and I thought that by spawning it, I could get her to target moose goose. This worked for about 10 seconds in total. And that's right, I was back to fighting moose goose solo again. So it was just me brawling with her, going back and forth and getting one hit in till the bitter end, and it was going well up until this happened.
Wow. What an asshole.
Yeah, that's right, Moose Goose bailed with 1/3 of her health left, and in that very moment, I decided that this was now personal, and that I was not only going to kill this woman, but slaughter her entire bloodline by murdering her children too. I mean, in all fairness, I was going to do that originally, but now this isn't about the weatherpain anymore. Fortunately, my hateful rage would be satiated, as I had actually planned for this by making more gunpowder than I actually needed in order to defeat Fuelweaver. So I firebombed Moose Goose to where she only had a little bit of health left, then I finished her off, and then I did the exact same thing to her babies, systematically slaughtering them one by one. It's actually really easy to beat the moslings when they can't survive more than a single handbat hit. I crafted more gunpowder, almost capping out at the 2 stacks I needed to do the deed, and I set out off on an adventure to find the last ingredient for the weatherpain. I found niter instead. I then found the desert, realized this was the wrong desert, got distracted by random set piece, then I found the right desert where I saw 2 whole packs of volt goats, more than enough to get at least 2 horns, and got to work kiting them to death. Got a volt goat hort from one, got another one after using the night gear I got from the set pieces, and killed one more just for good measure. I started making even more gunpowder, putting me over the top, as I would need some to traverse Fuelweaver's cavern more than once. I also made 2 weatherpains, which is more than enough for what I'm planning, got attacked by hounds, killed them using their own freeze attack, and started faring the items I would need for the final battle to Undertale. I then remembered there was something important that I needed to do. Keep in mind, as a rat, I am physically incapable of going insane. Fighting Fuelweaver requires you to be insane for parts of it. For most of you, alarm bells are probably going off right now, and that must mean this challenge is impossible. Fortunately, there is still a way this rat can traverse the realm of insanity, and that is with the Nightmare Amulet that allows it to enter insane mode without actually being insane. So I really quickly made the whole Shadow Manipulator, as all the gear I needed for it was ironically right next to my base, and made my amulet. Heading straight back down to Undertale, I began bonking the half-destroyed stalagmite for bone fragments, and I actually managed to get them all surprisingly quickly. Also, with my remaining nightmare fuel, I made a single thuasite crown. I then asked some lobsters how we should split the work of cleaning out the Fuelweaver cavern.
Among Us!
Taking the valuable items I needed for the fight in tow, I began making my way to the tentapiller before bombing my way through and journeying in with my boulder friends. This may seem monotonous, and make no mistake it is, to go through the insanity pillars, but you are actually fast enough to equip the nightmare amulet, drop your backpack, unlock the pillar, and pick your backpack back up before the pillar has a chance to relock itself, meaning you can take the backpack with you to the end. Oh, also the lobsters killed the perimeter guard for me. Now, I really didn't need to go back for my other weatherpain and another nightmare amulet, but at this point this wasn't about just winning as a rat anymore. This was about ultimate rat domination. So I made my way back with my additional nightmare amulet and weatherpain, and I was ready to finish this. The Fuelweaver fight was lackluster to say the least. Spawning it in, I whacked it a few times with a thuasite club I never planned on using, then bombed it with my first stack of gunpowder. The Fuelweaver then activated its shadow shield, and I dual-purposed the weatherpain by using it both to get rid of its woven shadows and destroy its hand shields, before dropping my second nuclear payload right next to it and blowing it to Kingdom Come, where I then harvested its bone helmet, bone armor, and lantern. Watch as a literal fucking mouse became the new leader of the Nightmare Shadows, and I beat Don't Starve as a Carrat.